Do I need a microphone? A little bit of a microphone. About here?
If you're right there, you're going to get some feedback. Just go for it. Read it.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. And I don't have any feedback. So, let's see. Well, welcome, and thank you for being here, and thank the Art Center for all of these artist talks. So, the mural started with my brother, who was teaching at the university in Pueblo here, and he invited down his former professor, to give a little seminar. And that professor inspired a bunch of artists, and they called themselves Tiki. And they would go out at night, because it was still graffiti, and they would go out at night on the levee, and they would create these giant murals. And it was just wonderful to come in the next day and see these things just popped up. And so one night, the police are waiting for them. And they chase them.
A little bit louder.
On a 45-degree angle. On concrete. With a river below them. Well, at that time, Gus Sandstrom was the district attorney, and he scolded those cops for their stupidity. And thereafter, it became legal to paint on the levee. My introduction to Dave was I was teaching at Colorado College, and he had done some remarkable posters for them. So I sought him out. And when I did, we became friends thereafter. And now the beginning of my involvement with the murals was that for the beginning, our house was the staging area and also a rendezvous for all the other artists that come. Dave would go around and gather up all of the used paint from wherever. And he went all over Colorado, and he that's what the artists were using to paint with. Now, the beginning of Latka Studios was, I'm about 29, I buy this house at 229 Midway, and I'm telling my aunt, and she starts to tear up. I said, what's going on? And she says, I was born in that house.
Oh my God.
Your mother was born in that house.
Whoa.
My mother died when I was 4, and I felt like Pueblo just opened its arms up and welcomed us in. And really, that's how it's been.
That's amazing.
So, turning clay into bread. So after a master's degree in ceramics, I come to Pueblo. My brother takes me over to the very famous Ken Williams studio. And he says, move in here for $20. And I'm like, where am I going to get $20? The light bulb goes on, and maybe I could sell a few mugs. The Solar Studio. So Dave calls me up, and he says they're selling windows, used windows from the Air Force Academy, and that I ought to get in on this. So my brother and I went up there and bought 2,500. And that's how I paid for my studio. Now I'm going to do a little segue here. The pigeons, dead pigeons, and the military use. So Dave goes down to Fort Carson, and he's looking at these housing they're going to auction off. And he gets down there and he finds that there is just all the same, and they all have 1 million pigeons in the attic. So he's living on the edge, and so he decides go home and get his BB gun.
Oh.
But he found very quickly that if he just rang their little necks, fills up a duffel bag of them, drops them down. He drops down, looks off, and he sees an MP with a Jeep coming right at him. So he washes all the blood and off of his face and his hands, and they pull up and they say, "Have you seen anything unusual around here?" He takes that duffel bag, throws it over his shoulder, and he says, "No, not really." Now back to me. I was teaching at Colorado College, and I wasn't a very good teacher. I would do a demonstration. I was good if they were really interested, and then I would stay with them. But a typical night might be something like where I do a demonstration and go play paintball. Now, Jean and I had just gotten married, so she would stay back and hold her hands and learn how to make pots on their pots. Now, the early years of the pottery, we would go to Denver for $100. But then one day, Mary, that would be Jean's sister, calls us. She was teaching nurses in Denver. And she said, come on up and sell some pots to these nurses. Big success. And then we realized that if the hospitals was a closed system, communication system. So we would set up and give the candy stripers the 20%, and bam, we were killing it. It was like five a month, And then we discovered the Pueblo Mall. Well, first of all, we had a gallery at their house that was on the honor system. And then the mall, they do not like to have abandoned buildings in the mall. Yeah. And so we would rent a store. I would set it up. Jean would manage it, and then we called it Handmade Pueblo. And we would the artists and craftsmen would staff it. That was a big success. And over the course of our lives, and this here, pass this around, and in the last page is a document that I wrote doing an inventory of pottery. And based on that one document, I determined that we made 30,000 pots in our lifetime, and Jean is still making them. I think the high point of the pottery was in our 20th anniversary. I dressed up as a penguin, and
We all did.
and
We all had tuxedos.
we did 20 grand in a weekend, so that was definitely the high point.
Wow.
Now the tax forms didn't really reflect all of our income. We traded with doctors, dentists, lawyers, cars, repair, furniture, hardware, concerts, flowers, motels, barbers, and massage.
Yeah.
But the best one was from the Pueblo Library. They call up and they say to Jean, you did not return a book, and you're going to have to pay for it. I returned the book, and I'm not going to pay for it. Jean, just bring over a pot. In 2001, people stopped coming to the pottery. So we had to pivot into public art. We'd already done a few pieces, one down in Espanola that the great Ken Williams helped me with, and then one at the El Pueblo and a couple donor walls at the hospitals. But the public art career really took off when we did the Headwater Fountain. So they had taken Union and turned it. When they turned it, they created a little piece of land. And Jean went to the city and said, why don't we build a fountain? So I did a drawing. Yeah. And they said, great, now go get the money. So we got about half of it. Malin White kicked in $100,000. And then the job just died. It laid fallow for about a year. And then Jim Munch, city planner, applies for a federal grant and gets it, and we finish it up. But when I designed it, it was just pie in the sky at that point in time. So I had designed it with like marble sides and polished granite, but when the rubber met the road, I had to devise a different way to get a surface on there. And I realized that if I could cast concrete into sand, I could get 3 dimensions, and put in a little bit of concrete colors, I can get color. So that's what we did, but the city said, well, that's good in theory, but what is it really going to look like? So I did a little 4x4 sample, and that worked out real well. Now the public art pinnacle was where we'd been shortlisted. We've been shortlisted for a job, for 2 jobs at Mesa State in Grand Junction, and one of them was for a mural. And so I went up there and I asked one of the committee members what did she see? And she says, well, I see a big splash. It was in a swimming pool. Then I go home and I get this call from the committee saying I've been disqualified. What? You can't talk to. Yeah. And so there's no point in applying. Well, can I apply anyway? Sure, but you're not going to get it. So Jim Foster, president of the college, calls, and evidently that woman was a big cheese because we got the mural. Wow. Okay. And he wanted to negotiate about the atrium piece and the mural together. The atrium piece was 60, the mural was 40, and he says, I'll give you 80. And I'm like, you know, they feel like they can, everybody is always wants to barter with artists. I'm not sure exactly why that is. But we did the mural, and the atrium piece we recycled to a prison in Torrington, Wyoming, for $90. So that one worked out pretty good. The Walk of Legends. So Jeannie brings in this job. It's the best ever. They ask for a proposal, and I go drawing, and we give it to them, and they accept it. And it is 42 feet tall, 21 feet wide, one of them, and the other one is 42 feet tall, 12 feet wide. And she starts to do them, and I'm like salivating, you know. It's like, can I help? No. Even after I said, but I would let you help me. She says, no, you take over. One day, we're walking in front of the house and Jean says, what's that retirement plan for artists? Make more, sell higher? She didn't like that answer. So that's when we started buying houses up in the neighborhood. And Dave taught me, he said, if you make that kitchen and the bathroom exquisite, you'll never have trouble renting. And it's proven true. And Jean has a particular gift for this. We do concrete countertops, glass backsplashes, mosaic showers and floors. Presidential pottery. So, President Clinton had a particular love for Pueblo Community College. He'd been there 2 other times, and he was coming again. So the president of the school calls us up and says, would you give a platter to the president for us? And Jean says, well, only if I can give it to him. Jean, there's only 3 spaces on the platform. And she goes, well, President Clinton, Tom, me. So, but we made the platter anyway. And a little later on, before he arrives, we get a call from Patty Wiggers at the White House. And Jean goes, the White House on the corner? No, the White House. How can I help you? Well, we need to scan that platter. Meet us at the 7-Eleven. So, she takes it up there, they scan it. And a little bit later on, after he's gotten the platter, we get another call from Patty Wickham's at the White House. And by this time we know what White House they're talking about. And so they said, we want to know the value of it. Why? Well, if it's 400 and under, it goes to President Clinton. If it's 400 and over, it goes to the Smithsonian Museum. What do you think about it? I think it's about 425. Now Dave used to hitchhike up and down the I-25, and he found out very early on, if he carried a gas can, he would get a ride much faster. So he would run up to the car and say, look, this is just a prop, and 99% of the time, the people would give him a ride. And now we're on to another hitchhiking story. So, he gets a ride from a nice little family from Kansas, going to Christian camp. And there's 4 of them, and there's 2 kids in the back. He's in the back, sitting between them. And he says, he's just telling them all these glorious stories about hitchhiking. And then, right in front of the car, there's a dead deer. They pull up, have a look at it. Dave jumps out of his gas can, he pulls an axe. You can imagine their faces, right? And he's chopping the leg, and he's thinking this is going to taste, he was a really good cook. This is really going to taste good. He's going to marinate it. And as he's thinking those thoughts, he hears the little family of 4 tires screech away. He Get away.
No, keep out.
Death by ringing.
Death by rain.
Ringing.
Ringing.
So, 7 years old, he's on some bleachers, he falls on top of an ambulance. That until 64, he had ringing in his ears. And then one night, he pops a couple vitamin C's like he's always done, and he sneezes at the exact same time. And he's never felt such agony. He falls to the ground. He's laying there and knows this is the end. When he woke up in the morning, no ringing in the ears. The accidental facelift. So, age 17, he is going to the incinerator that his brother, unbeknownst to him, has thrown in a bunch of rags with solvents in there, and it explodes on him. Scarred face, torso, all through high school. Then, about 5 years later, he's out biking in the Broadmoor area, and this car hits him and drags him underneath the car. She gets out. She looks around. She cannot see what she's done. So she drags him a little bit more. But when they remove the bandages, there was a beautiful Dave Roberts. It's the facelift the hard way. Peeing in the corner. So he goes to Alaska and builds himself a little cabin. But it's just way, way too cold to go outside and pee. Has a lot of water, the snow, but he hadn't really planned on the food real well. So he pees in the corner. He gets up to be about 4 feet tall. And the light bulb goes on. What if I just opened the door a little bit and the varmints would come in? And they did. They came in. And he used the little varmints to lure the bigger varmints in. Prosthetic leg for Tom. So he wasn't real big on cleanliness. Had a couple chickens live with him. They roosted on the shower rods up there. And he named him Tom and Jean. And Tom gets his foot stuck in some ice, and Dave has to amputate. So he builds a little prosthetic leg, even articulated joints in it, and super glues it. So there's a wildfire near his house, and it's within 1,000 feet. He calls the fire department and says, "Look, I have a lot of explosives here. I have many 55-gallon drums full of enamel paint." And they sent up a brigade, and they just protected his property. The full body cast. It's Halloween. He's going to win every single contest at all the bars in Colorado Springs. It's about 30 degrees out. Now, they left holes for his eyes and his nose and his mouth. And he gets a couple buddies, and they carry him around in a dolly into the, and he wins everything, hands down. It's just prize after prize. But he hadn't really thought it out all that well, because there was a curing the plaster of Paris. And it gets very, very hot. And as he's complaining to these guys, they've been partaking in the local fair too. And they would just laugh as they throw him into the station wagons. And then it gets very, very, very cold because there's a lot of water in that plaster of Paris. And so he has to pee. A little bit of extra water didn't really make much difference. They went to the emergency to get him cut out. All things considered, it was a very successful night. Many, many, many prizes, and nobody permanently got hurt, and nobody went to jail. Now, in summary, it was a great pleasure. He had a profound effect on our careers, and I'm really happy and proud to be part of this new mural world that Cynthia Ramu is governed beautifully. And thank you for being here.
After you watch this great film that we made, it's been an adventure for me. I'll just give you a little history while we're getting this set up. If you would like to take a photograph.